Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana Jerusalema ikhaya lami ilondoloze uhambe nami zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze zuhambe nami ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana ilondoloze 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 zungangishilana dawo yami ayikholana buso wami awukholana ilondoloze.
Good day, everyone. My name is Nolwazi Gcaba, a partner at Adams & Adams. I will be your program director for the event today. It is a great honor for Adams & Adams to host the 2020 American Intellectual Property Law Association Women in IP Global Networking event. We are excited to be the ones to host this event for the first time in the African soil. We are particularly excited to have been given carte blanche by the American Intellectual Property Law Association on what to share with our guests today. We chose a virtual art tour of the South African Constitutional Court. This choice was influenced by a few factors. Firstly, had it not been of COVID-19, the South African cities would have been, during the month of September, abuzz with art fairs and art festivals. As we cannot attend these art fairs and art festivals to enjoy and support the art, we thought it appropriate to consume it virtually with you. Secondly, COVID-19 has stimulated innovation and creativity to many organizations around the world. And in IP law, we protect innovation and art. In 2016, the African cultural economy was estimated at $4.2 billion and support more than 500,000 jobs in the region. This sector is also one of those hard hit by COVID-19. It should therefore be supported. Thirdly, the Black Lives Matter movement has placed firmly on the world's agenda the significant importance of human rights protection. It therefore seemed befitting that we should share with you a phenomenal story of the South African Constitutional Court, the ultimate protector and defender of human rights. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the American Intellectual Property Law Association and Adams & Adams, I welcome you all and thank you for joining us in finding freedom in art. Before we proceed with the tour, I would like to invite one of my partners at Adams & Adams, Nthabi Paswana, to tell us a bit more about the American Intellectual Property Law Association. Over to you, Nthabi.
Thank you, Nolwazi. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you are joining us from. On behalf of Adams & Adams and AIPLA, I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation and also taking your time to join this event. As Nolwazi has said, this is the first AIPLA event to be hosted within Africa. And it is also the first virtual tour of the South African Constitutional Court. We hope you will enjoy this tour. And before we start with the tour, Our leadership from AIPLA will share some few words, but we just want to thank you and assure you that we are honored to host our clients, our colleagues, members of the AIPLA, officials from various IP offices. We hope that you will enjoy this event. Thank you.
Hello from just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and welcome to the AIPLA Women in IP virtual networking event. Even though we can't be together, I've learned, especially this year, that we can draw strength and inspiration from others in the AIPLA community. I hope you do just that today. I want to thank the Women in IP leadership for the opportunity to connect with others during this event, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon in person.
Hi, I'm Megan Donahoe. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at AIPLA. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us tonight at the Women's Global Networking event. We're so excited to have so many locations around the globe participating in this really unique event as we tackle the challenges of the virtual world. So happy to have you all here, and thanks again so much for joining us. Enjoy your evening.
Hi there, it's Melissa Buss. I'm the chair of Women in IP for AIPLA. I'm coming to you from our cabin up in northern Minnesota. Thank you so much for joining us today for our very first virtual global networking event for Women in IP. The sun never sets on Women in IP. We have members throughout the world in every single time zone. We help each other, especially during these difficult times, and we are here to support you. We inspire each other, we help each other out, we keep connected, and we keep striving to reach our full potential as women in IP. We are so excited that you're with us, and we hope you have a wonderful time.
Hello from South Florida, and welcome to AIPLA's first virtual Global Women in IP networking event. I am Carol Thorstead Forsyth, Vice Chair of the Women in IP Committee. I would like to thank each of you for attending this event. Our hope is that this event will strengthen and create new relationships among our current members. For those of you who are not currently members of AIPLA or the Women in IP Committee, we welcome you with open arms and hope that you will join our fabulous group of ladies. The committee's mission is to inspire and empower women in IP to reach their potential. The committee develops content, leads initiatives, and holds events like this one to facilitate its members' professional development and to reach a truly balanced and inspired life. Some of our other programs include local community service events, an IP huddle similar to Lean In, a book club, a Women to Watch program, and a speakers bank. If you have an interest in learning more about these programs or becoming actively involved in these programs, please reach out to us. I would like to take a brief moment to recognize and celebrate the many achievements that we have all made throughout the year. You are each an inspiration to women around the globe. Cheers and enjoy.
The Women in IP Committee of AIPLA welcomes you to the first annual virtual global networking event. My name is Elaine Spector, and I chair this event with Sarah, who is currently on maternity leave, and I want to say congrats to you, Sarah. So 2020 has been such a challenging year for us globally, while every country has had to navigate this global pandemic. From Asia to Europe to Africa to the United States to Canada to Central and South America to Australia, all of us have been affected. But today and over the next 2 days, we unite together globally to celebrate life, our relationships, and our profession. So this event was inspired by American newscaster Peter Jennings' 24-hour coverage of the millennium, Y2K if you all remember, and where he went into different countries throughout the world. And what struck me then was the stark contrast in how we were celebrating. In some countries it was a time of war, in some countries it was a time of peace. But also what caught my attention was how many similarities we had. And it planted a seed in me to want to know my global community better. So what better way than through this global networking event? We hope that you take advantage of the many events throughout the world as AIPLA expands its global reach. Thank you for being a part of that. And before you know it, we will be back celebrating in person. Thanks again and enjoy your event.
Hi, my name is Janae Garef. I'm chair of the mentoring committee. Mentoring is a great way to get involved with the organization. Our mission at the mentoring committee is to pair new and junior AIPLA members with more experienced AIPLA members. Especially now during the time of a global pandemic, it's always good to have a mentor or a mentee, somebody in your corner to bounce ideas off of. Mentoring is a great way to get involved with the organization, especially if you're new. We can help you find a committee that is tailored to your practice. One of our programs that we're launching in 2020 is our cluster program. Our cluster program goes a little bit beyond the one-on-one mentor-mentee program, and we expand that to 4 to 6 people of varying geographical location, practice areas, technologies, experience levels. So what we like about mentoring is that you can be involved at any level. We're always looking for people to do committee work. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to stay involved with the organization, and we would love for you to come meet us.
So before we start with the tour, I would like to give you a brief overview of how the event will unfold. The tour will take approximately 50 minutes, and it is divided into 3 parts. The first part is the shortest of the 3, and it's 10 minutes long. It will then be followed by a Q&A slot, which will last 3 minutes. The second and third parts are both 15 minutes long, and each of them will also have 3 minutes question and answer slot. Please make sure that you post all your questions in the chat section to ensure that you cover them all during the Q&A sessions. We have saved the best for last, so please make sure that you are here for the third part. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our tour guide, Nolubabalo Memese. Nolubabalo is a former law clerk to the Constitutional Court Justice Chris Jafta. She has been with the Constitutional Court for many years and knows the Constitutional Court precinct very well. So ladies and gentlemen, Nolubabalo.
Hello everyone, my name is Nolubabalo Memese, as Sis Nolwazi has mentioned. And this is also quite a first for me. It's a first for us. We are very excited to be able to give you and share with you our home virtually, even though you cannot physically be with us, right? So on the screen, you will see what I would have seen or what you would see if you had Constitution Hill. And I will take you through it. I'll try and highlight the things that really stand out for me. I mean, I love the entire court precinct and I'd like to share every corner of it, but it's not always possible, right? So what we'll do is maybe just give you a background about how the entire site came about and that kind of a thing. And then we'll go right into the Constitutional Court art collection in the second part of the tour, right? So what you are seeing here as I'm panning is what the site looks like, right? This is what the site looks like. And it's built so if we were to be standing here, we'd be at the top of these rampart walls, which were part of the old fort. I'll tell you a bit about it just now. And we are in the middle of very diverse worlds in South Africa. Over here in the background is Heilbrow, right? If we go around, this is the first part of Constitution Hill, which was built. So this is the old fort. And if we pan all the way around there, at the back is our CBD, so the busy inner city part of our country. And to the right, this brown brick building is the women's jail, built in 1909 to 1910. It housed in separate facilities, your black and your female prisoners. In a second, I'll tell you the kind of people that were housed on site. And what you're seeing at the bottom down there are the beginnings of our Joburg northern leafy suburbs, so your more opulent parts of the country. And right in the middle, ladies and gents, is this Constitutional Court. Okay, tell you about these strange looking Batman towers over here. But what I want to draw your attention to is here. So this is where the Constitutional Court is. Let me try and zoom so you can have a better look. And it's built quite deliberately in the middle of these different worlds. And for the judges who, in the early 2000s, put together a brief of what they wanted the court to look and feel like, it was important for them for the court to be accessible. Okay. So the kinds of prisoners you would have back in the day would be your ordinary criminals. So in your, let's maybe have a quick look at the blackmail section. That would be all the way down there. So the red roof that you see at the bottom there. So you would have your blackmail prisoners or criminal, common crook. You then have your political activist. And the third kind of person is just an ordinary South African trying to get from work to home and vice versa. But because of your anti-apartheid past laws, this third kind of prisoner could also end up in there. The same with your black female section, same with your, so in your white male section, you'd have your white common criminal and also your political activist. The person who comes to my mind is Joe Slovo, who was a member of the South African Communist Party and quite a well-known anti-apartheid struggle activist, right? So that is a bit about Constitution Hill. It's a bit about what the site was like. And as we just go around and take it all in, I want you then to imagine in the sight of great oppression, great sadness, great misery, suddenly the Constitutional Court is built. And the way this happened, maybe I want us to go quickly down there. The way this happened is an international contest was run. So a competition was run and the judges said, look, we want a space that's going to be warm, inviting, full of history. We want to embrace our past, but we want to move forward and we want a site that will reflect this. And in order to make space for the court, which you see over there, this was an awaiting trial block. It was an actual building. It housed many prisoners waiting to be finally sentenced, and it was demolished. Just try and think immediately of the symbolism. You're demolishing the past to make space for the future, right? And they preserved 350,000 of these very bricks. And I'll show you where they are inside the court chamber. Okay, so that was just by way of introduction. And we've got a lot of links here, which you will have access to later on. But the idea is we want to share with you some stories that are personal, that are special, that stand out. But you can always just have a more in-depth look at the Constitutional Court art collection later on, right? As we head towards the court, there's a couple of special pieces for me. Just before we even go inside, this starts to come through. I want to show you the awaiting trial block from this end. And what you see is something over here that we call the flame of democracy. Flame of democracy is never meant to go out, right? So it will always be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there it is. When the Constitution turned 15 years old, if I'm not mistaken, the flame was put together and the idea was to say, look, as a country, we've done a lot. We've come very far, but we're not quite there yet. So lest we forget, let's keep this flame going and let's remember that we are not where we need to be yet. The preamble to our Constitution is at the bottom over there, which starts with the words, we the people, right? And just as we go away from the flame of democracy, I want to show you a lot of South Africans. So this is what a lot of people would see. People walk past, as I say, it's very warm, very inviting, very porous. This is what people would have a look at. Constitutional courts in each of the 11 languages, very bright, very colorful. And the idea there is to say, we honor the signage from the street posts. We honor signage from street vendors. We honor the inner city graffiti. And there you have Constitutional Court in each of the 11 languages, right? Just behind it, just behind the Constitutional Court font is freedom, dignity, equality, it looks like that, in each of the 11 languages. And it honors the fact that these judges are diverse. Yes, this is their handwriting. We even have Braille to celebrate former Justice Sak Yaqub. And it just says freedom, dignity, equality, which is our founding values, right? Just a quick sneak peek at an art piece. I want to show you something quickly over there. So, this is a piece by Dumile Feni and it's called History. And when you first look at it, right, I mean, as you look at it, you get this idea of slavery, of abuse, subjugation. This person is on all fours. There are people sitting on top of this person. And what the artist actually meant, so with Dumile Feni was a very positive artist, and he meant that throughout history, there have been people who were willing to take others on their journey, take them forward, carrying them on their shoulders without being forced to do so. So there's nothing linking the bit there to the people's hands. In fact, these two people do not even have hands, right? And that's just one of the first art pieces that you see just right outside of the court. And before we go into the Constitutional Court, I want you to have a look at the store. And this will signal just a brief stop so we can see if people haven't fallen off the wayside. We're still together. You understand what it is that we're trying to share with you. And there we have, in each of the 11 official languages of South Africa, we have all the rights. So we have 27 rights in Chapter 2 of our Constitution, and they're all on that door, right? Beautiful, 8 meters high, quite majestic. On the door handle itself, you even have Braille. Maybe just to show you what the door, look at how beautiful that is, right? And so this is a wooden door. It's not steel, it's not metal, nothing forbidding, nothing saying don't come inside. And you even have this idea of such inclusion where you've got sign language, where you've got Braille. So this is where you would actually stand. You would stand over here, and this would be your journey inwards. But before that, I would just like maybe to hand over to Nolwazi, who will just maybe see if there's anything you'd like to pick up.
Thank you, Nolu Babalo. Could you tell us who designed the Constitutional Court building?
So before the court was built, an international contest was run. It was open worldwide, and a lot of people handed in submissions and they said, this is the idea that we have. But in the end, the people that won the brief were 3 young people from a company called OMM, and they teamed up with a company called Urban Designs. And they said to the judges, look, if we build your court, this is the theme we'd like to build it under. The theme is very special. I really like it. Maybe we'll get into it in a second, but just based on the theme that they said, this is how we can build the court. That is how the court building came to be. And those are the people who won that brief.
Lovely. And could you could you possibly zoom into one of the rights that are on the door of the Constitutional Court, and so that we can just
let's see
one and go through one?
You see, in things like this, Nolwazi, one is always biased and one always tends to look for the right that they love. So yes, I'm looking for Section 9. I think it's right at the top. Section 9 of our Constitution is the equality. So that's 19. I think it's at the top. Or it might be on this left-hand side where the door is open. And Section 9 of our Constitution is our equality clause, which says we're all equal. We do not discriminate, not on race, gender, not on creed, origin. And it's important, I think, in every tour this comes up where we say, even to young learners, I'm talking 10, 11-year-olds, and we say to them, if this person is different and they believe in that, is it right, is it wrong? And you just get them thinking, and you start using the court as a tool to actually teach the little ones that there's 27 rights. They found in Chapter 2. This is one of them. Have a look at the Constitution booklet, which is your favorite, and it starts the conversation going.
Lovely. Okay, we don't have any more questions, so we can continue.
Okay, going through. So ladies and gentlemen, just remember where you are. You now at the entrance, you're going to go inside the court, and this is what you are going to see. So as you go inside here, let's do that. You've now come in through these massive 8-meter high wooden doors, and you are in the court foyer, right? Very strange looking court foyer. I know a lot of you have been inside a courtroom, and certainly courtrooms don't look like this one. And it was designed quite deliberately. So if you look at the big open windows over here, the people outside can see what's happening inside the court, and the people inside the court can see what's happening outside there, right? So that's the door you would have come in there. And just this idea of transparency, when it relates, to the history of South Africa, a lot of things would happen inside a courtroom and no one would know what happened. One minute your loved one has gone to the shops, the next minute they're not home, right? And so it was important to have this idea that we are not hiding anything. You can see what's in here and we can see you. But going back to what we touched on, this theme of how the court was built. In traditional Africa, right, if there were any disputes in the village, what people would do is you wake up in the morning, a third of your livestock is gone, you go to the chief. So when you ask people on a tour, they'll say, yeah, you get a gun, you get this. No, you go to the chief and you say to the chief, look, this is what has happened and I need a resolution. I actually know who took my herd and that kind of a thing. The chief would then summon a tribal council. The tribal council would sit potentially in a circle. It's all these elders, the wise people in the village. And because it's hot, it's under the African sun, there's no air conditioning, you'd have this massive tree. You have these wise sages sitting under this tree, and they'll discuss whatever it is that has been brought to their attention. When they try to resolve the dispute, it won't be this kind of we need to get this person out of the village and not very punitive. They would try and restore the relationship, and how they would do it is probably to say, return the 10 cows, but add an extra goat or sheep for solatium, for the injured feelings of your neighbor. Nice. The judges loved this idea. Right? So this was a pitch, and the person said, no, we'll build the entire court to represent traditional African justice under a tree. And that is what they did, right? So what you are seeing here, these silver things over here, this would be your leaves. So these would be the leaves, and the pillars that you are seeing, they're very clear on this little insert here, very colorful, representing the tree trunks, right? And so you would have these villagers sitting in the middle discussing the eel that's begotten them. Okay. Now, as we pan out of it, maybe just to touch on a further art piece. So this will be our second art piece over here. And it's called, so it's by Georgia Papa George, and it's called Through the Barrier. And the slang, how we refer it is we call it the ladder of freedom. It's right inside the court foyer, ladies and gents. It's in the very foundation of the court. It's anchored inside one of these old awaiting trial block towers. Okay, you can see over there. So what the artist was saying, I'll tell you a bit more about what's happening around it, but what the artist was saying is in honoring the treason trialists, so people who stood trial for the treason trial, I think there were over 100 people, and I'll show you later on their names are actually captured at the bottom over here. But in trying to attain freedom, so we start here where everything is completely closed off, there's prison bars, but as we go out, it starts loosening up a bit. So the barbed wire is also looking a bit more loose, and you now have a second rung where there isn't an iron gate anymore, but just one chain. Then you've got this chevron, right? So this is the barrier that the artist is referring to, because once you cross this barrier, you're no longer in this deep, dark, dense oppression. You are starting to move upwards. But I always also like to think of the idea of the caution sign, the chevron that says, warning, warning, be careful. So in your attainment or in your pursuit of freedom, be careful so that we don't repeat the same mistakes, right? You see then an elephant bone. It was donated to us from an elephant who passed on through natural causes at the national causes, sorry, at the Kruger National Park. You've got a snake, right? And in ancient Greek mythology, the snake signifies wisdom. And then right at the top, you've got the infinity sign. Again, this idea of we can't relent, we can't stop, we're not yet done. There's more that we need to do. Just in thinking of justice under a tree, look at the slants in the ceiling over there, giving you this idea of the rays of the sun shining through on these elders in the forest. But what you're seeing around it, this says welkom by B-skof, loosely translated, actually accurately translated. It just means welcome to B section. And B section was this actual prison block, right? So they've kept some of the remnants of the past in honoring the future. All right. Just before we passed there, we pass it. This is called, I think it's called the Freedom Fighter. Let me quickly just make sure. Yes, this is called Freedom Fighter, and it's to celebrate the life of Bantu Stephen Biko, who passed away in the early 1977. And he was an actual, so he was a freedom fighter, one, but also he was very much passionate about this idea of Black consciousness. If you see the afro over there, and what you're seeing are all these hands, and these hands represent, the artist wanted to give this idea of one, police incarceration and brutality because Stephen Biko died at the hands of the police, but also this crowd that's resisting and this crowd that's picketing. But in South Africa, any protest is followed by dancing and jumping and singing, and that is what also comes through there, right? So that's our court foyer. And just very quickly, so we've covered, I want to show you the mediator. So the mediator is right at the foyer as well. Okay, I want to show you, it's by an artist called Walter Altman. And so he drew his inspiration from a hat stand and how it denotes arrivals and departures and mediates between the public and private terrains. All through the court foyer, there's art pieces, ladies and gents. I'm hoping we'll be able to cover each one, but if we don't, you know exactly where you'd find it, right? This one is of a beautiful boy. Want to maybe zoom out. Let me see if we can capture him. Very touching picture. It was donated to the court by the two grandchildren of one of the former justices, former Justice Tembile Skweyiya, who has since passed on. And it was just to pay homage to the fact that the judge was very passionate about children's rights, and it came across very clearly in the judgments that he made at the Constitutional Court. We now have a look at a piece called, it's colloquially known as the blue dress, right? And it's called The Man Who Sang and the Woman Who Kept Silent. This is a story of a young struggle activist called Phila Ndwandwe. And Phila Ndwandwe was incarcerated by the police. She was taken into custody. And when she was arrested, they obviously wanted information from her, right? And because she wouldn't give them any information, she was tortured. She was there. That is how it would look. So it's a painting that forms part of this piece. And she was tortured, held captive. And when the police realized that this young woman is going to die, they actually moved her to the outskirts of Johannesburg, and they left her there to die. But being completely naked, to cover herself up, a plastic bag was floating nearby. And she took this plastic bag, covered herself, and that is how she was eventually found. And on the actual dress, during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the TRC in South Africa, a commission that was meant to be sort of a peace brokering mechanism between those who were done hard by during the apartheid era and those who wanted to confess and get state pardon. During one of these viewings and airings of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Judith Mason got wind of the story of Philandwandwe, who was taken, found, covered herself up in a plastic bag. And she wrote a poem. And I'd maybe like to briefly read the poem and then we can move on. And you'll understand what the passion is behind this particular art piece, right? So when this story came out, Judith Mason put the piece together. She wrote the poem on the blue plastic bags that she found, and she then donated it to the court. And it says, so this is what the writing is. Sister, plastic bag may not be the whole armor of God, but you are wrestling with flesh and blood and against powers, against the rulers of darkness, against spiritual wickedness in sordid places. Your weapons were your silence and a piece of rubbish, right? Remember, she wouldn't talk. Finding that bag and wearing it until you were disinterred, such a frugal, commonsensical, housewifely thing to do. At some level, you shamed your capturers and they did not compound their abuse of you by stripping you a second time. Yet they killed you. We only know of your story because a sniggering man remembered how brave you were. Memorials to your courage are everywhere. They blow about in the streets and drift on the tide and cling to thorn bushes. This dress is made from some of them. Farewell, warrior. Right? And that is what is written, or the poem that Judith Mason wrote on the dress. I want us to try and move along. I really want to be able to get a few more of your questions in, and because of that, let's move to the benefit of the doubt. Right? The benefit of the doubt is a tapestry which was donated to the court, and it's such a beautiful piece. So it's made specifically, it was donated to us by the artist, and it's made specifically for the space at the Constitutional Court. It was donated to Justice Albie Sachs. He had gone abroad to Holland to listen to a paper being delivered, and Marlene Dumas and Justice Albie Sachs got to talking. That is actually how 80% of the Constitutional Court art collection came together. Justice Albie Sachs would go somewhere, be inspired by something, it would be donated, and he'd bring it back to the court. So that piece is a tapestry called The Benefit of the Doubt. And as I said, ladies and gents, please don't feel hard done by. As soon as you are in the comfort of your home and you want to have a look at all the details of some of these pieces, they are all available here. The next piece is called Cell 508. So A section, so it's Cell 508 in A section. And A section is a very notorious, it's part of a very notorious prison in Cape Town called Pollsmoor Maximum Security Prison. So these are just pictures of what it looks like. And for me, it's very touching to know that, I mean, Constitution Hill was a prison. It eventually shut down in 1983 due to overcrowding and the spread of disease. And right here, you are looking at overcrowding. You are looking at, I mean, think of where we are today in terms of COVID-19. You are looking at spaces where outbreak of disease could come up again. And I know that the Constitutional Court justices take rotations where they visit places of incarceration to make sure that people are actually treated in terms of the constitutional values that we hold dear to us. Okay. I want us to have a look at Godzilla. In fact, just before we do that, I'd like us to have a look at the Dogs of War. There's something very special about this piece, and it's in the actual body, right? So you've got these 3 dogs of war, the heads, but you've got the suitcase. On the suitcase is a small inscription. I know you'll be able to read the whole story here, but I want us to focus on the suitcase. It's got a small inscription of SK on it. This was given to the young Sidney Kendridge, who happens to be William Kendridge's father, and it was given to him by Bram Fischer. Bram Fischer represented a lot of the activists at the Rivonia treason trial. The Rivonia treason trial is what eventually sent 13 political activists to Robben Island for different amounts, well, varying degrees of time, right? And so that is what the body of the suitcase is is about, but this was it. So it represented a puppet show. It's traveled to different parts of South Africa. It's been to Grahamstown at the National Grahamstown Arts Festival. It eventually made its way into Joburg and is now inside the Constitutional Court. It's also one of the pieces that's been there the most. Okay. Then we go to Godzilla by an artist called John Beloy. I've mentioned that Justice Albie Sachs would visit a place, go to an opening, and bring back an art piece. This one is very special to me because of how it eventually arrived at the court. So Godzilla eventually, the artist John Beloy drew his inspiration from a flood. He's from the rural village of Limpopo in one of our provinces, and there was a flood. And in the flood, there was this huge tree caught in the river, and he just thought of this magnificent Godzilla that I think we're all familiar with, emerging from this river. And he put together this piece, and when that happened, right, so he created Godzilla, and he had been someone passionate about the arts for a long time, but you know, he did various trades for 10 years or so. In the end, he opened his own art gallery and invited Justice Albie Sachs to the opening. At the opening, they got to talking, and guess what? He agreed to donate the piece to the court. But this man traveled over 500 kilometers on the back of his van with this 3-meter high giant, and he said, I want to deliver it myself. And he brought it to the court, and in 2006, he passed on, and in 2019, Godzilla fell. The way you see Godzilla now is Godzilla lying on his back, and he fell, and eventually the court committee, the arts committee decided we can't put him back in the original position where he was outside, and he's now lying inside the court. And you know, it's the final leg of this artist and this piece and this donation to the Constitutional Court. There isn't another courtroom in the country, I'm safe to say, that is full of such history, Sis Nolwazi, as I am about to hand back to you, where you're seeing art pieces, and there is the Constitutional Court Library. 3 floors, serious books, encyclopedias, journals, and just outside is this beautiful, magnificent art piece called Godzilla.
So tell me, how do artists get to donate their work to the Constitutional Court?
So as far as I remember, the first art committee of the court was Justice Yvonne Mugorov, retired, and Justice Albie Sachs and one other justice, and they function. So the court said to them, colleagues, here's 10,000 Rand, please get us pieces, and so on. But eventually it just worked on donations, because you don't want to start paying for art pieces and then one day the artist is at the court trying to assert some or other constitutional right, you know. So
using Adams and Adams.
Yeah, using Adams and Adams. So you have a situation where people of the arts, there's a new art committee, there's a Constitutional Court Art Trust, whose focus is to say, what are the pieces that are aligned to the values of the court, to the messaging of the court, to the things that we hold clear to our hearts, right? And so the pieces are donated, but what I also love is every single piece that's donated, you'll see when we go inside the Constitutional Art Chamber, the carpet is an art piece, but it was hand woven by a group of people, and the names of the people who hand wove the carpet appear for everybody to see. So it's just that kind of attitude where they artists who say, this is my piece, this is what it stands for, the arts committee loves it, and then they give credit to say, you know, this is the name of the, and some are on loan and some are permanently there, some are refurbished. You never see the same artworks for 2 years in a row.
Oh, wow. So they come and go.
They come and go. It's very dynamic, very static. That's why if you see, for example, Godzilla has been there for a while, but someone else going up this gallery, up the passage where all the, it's a public gallery where the people can see where the artworks are. They can see a piece in 2005, come back with their family in 2008, and
no longer
boom,
there.
it's not there.
Yeah.
But you know, so that's why there's a Constitutional Court Art
Trust
collection link where you can just always go back and revisit some of your favorites.
Right. Okay, you've spoken about inside the court, so let's go in.
All right, so let's go inside the court chamber. So we did the outside of the court, we did the foyer. Now, as we go inside the court chamber itself, I'd like us to have a look. So this would be the door leading us into the Constitutional Court itself. The door is an art piece. How amazing is that? You know, so this is the door that would lead you right inside. The artist is Andrew Lindsay, Marafasla Kamstra. There's a few of them. I think there's 4 artists together. And what they did is they used copper and they drew inspiration from the kente cloth of Ghana.
Lovely.
They drew inspiration from the kente cloth. I want to see. So yeah, that seems close enough, where you can see just these patterns of this African woven cloth, and it's in copper. In the foyer out here, if the court chamber is full, the court chamber is quite tiny. If it's full, people will wait out here. And while they're waiting out here, they would actually, so these doors would be closed. As soon as court is in session, the doors close, but there's a sunlight coming in through there of this traditional African justice under tree, and it would reflect on the door. I often imagine people sitting there and looking to the court for guidance, for light, saying, you know, we trust you, whatever it is, whatever judgments that's going to be handed down will bring light to our specific situation. Okay. And that is what you're seeing over there. Let us go right inside. Just before we go in, have a look at the Constitutional Court logo. I mean, this is the logo of the highest court in our land. This is the highest court of appeal. This is the highest court in all constitutional matters. And all it is, and by all it is, I mean no disrespect, is a tree, people standing under this tree, enjoying the protection of the tree, the Y shape of the South African flag. It's not completely circle, so it's not circular, it's not perfect. It's got these ragged open edges, giving you this idea again that, guys, we're not done. Ladies and gents, we've made great strides, but the generations behind that come after us, they've also got their challenges that they need to sort out. They've also got challenges that relate to us wanting this perfect society eventually. Ladies and gents, there you see it. Strange looking court if I've seen one. Let's go inside here. And what you're looking at is the court's chamber of the highest court in our land. And a lot of people sometimes get this idea that, no, this is part of the museum. Nothing happens here. They try. The judges, every Tuesday and Thursday during term, the judges are sitting inside this Constitutional Court. And once in a while, like maybe 2-3 months, a judgment is handed down. So the judges still sit. It's very much functional. And yet, because it's a museum, I think it's the most special thing where ordinary members of the public are permitted. When court is not sitting, people come and they go all the way into the court and they see all these symbolisms and all the richness of the art that's inside the court chamber. Remember, we spoke about the bricks that were demolished in the waiting trial block. How special it is to know that from the ruins and from the horrible past of our country, brick by brick, almost stitching it brick by brick, we are building the South Africa that we want to see. So you've got these, they are completely uncovered. Where the judges sit, they see these bricks and they are reminded to completely carry on taking us forward, right? And so that is what you have over there. And I'll tell you in a second about how the structure of the court looks. It's also quite a special thing, but just where we are now, you almost have this idea, this sense again about traditional African justice under a tree. Why do I say that? It's got this oval feel. It's not completely square. You've got these bricks. It's round. It's warm leather chairs there, right? Maybe let me go straight to the carpet. For me, this is the clearest way for you to see. Look at that. So this is what would be what you'd see in a natural forest environment. And those are the patterns and the shadows cast on the ground. And it's the same thing that you see on this woven mat. And you can see who designed it, you know. So it was designed by Andrew Vesta, and it's all there. And that's the idea of traditional African justice under a tree, right? So the Sotho word for it, I used to get it wrong. The Sotho word for it, ladies and gents, is lekgotla. Lekgotla, traditional African justice, right? Now, the way that the court looks, this is where your judges would be. And the judges are looking at the public over there. So this is counsel for your applicants, counsel for your respondents. But the last 2 rows of the court chamber, the people sitting there are sitting higher than the judge's bench. Counsel, when they stand at the podium over here to speak to the judges, they are at eye level. And it's this idea for me of, you know, you don't have the judges sitting in this position of great honor. They're at the top looking down at everybody who's at the bottom, but you've got people eye level. Some people are higher than the judges to remind the judges that you serve the South African people and not the other way around. And just speaking about the judges, I want to show you what the judges bench looks like. What is that? Cowhides, right? Those are cowhides, and they're right on the judge's bench. This is called the Nguni cowhide. Court chamber over there. There we go. So I want to show you the actual cow so there, that's the Nguni cow. And Nolwazi, it's from your home province.
Yes.
And the Nguni cow is well known for good productivity of both meat and milk. So in Africa, it's like a, you know, it's a Bentley. If this was a car, this would be a Bentley. It's, you know, it's very status symbol that this represents your wealth. But looking at these patterns, they're all from the same breed or same kind of cow, but no two patterns are the same. We have 11 judges at our court. And the idea is each of these judges are equal in rank and standing. The Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice have administrative rank, but these judges are equal, but very unique. We have male, female. There's a justice who's a princess in her hometown, Justice Sisi Pepe, and these very different judges of 11 people in a very collegial manner. That is how they eventually get to the judgments that the court writes. Okay, over here, just on the side here, you've got panels with the same patterns of the carpet over here. They are just there for acoustics, and at the bottom of each panel are the names of the people who worked on the hand-woven carpet. Okay, such detail that's being paid to everything. All right, I just want to check if I've shown you everything, because the last thing that I want us to discuss, okay, we'll do the glass ribbon, and then we'll talk a bit about the flag that's behind the judge's bench. Over here, there's a glass ribbon that is part of, so these are the legs. So the people walking past, this was actually one of the marathons that went through the court precinct. When people walk past outside over there, all that the judges would see is about that much of their legs. And if a person is wearing pants, it's a cold winter's day, they're wearing pants, it reminds us of Section 9 of the Constitution. You cannot tell if this person is male, female, young, old, wealthy, poor, and it's just a visual reminder to both the public over here as well as the judges that we treat everybody that comes in here exactly the same way, and we cherish equality. All right? Just looking at time, Nolwazi, can I just sneak in 1 or 2 more art pieces?
Please do. I would love that. Thank you.
So obviously this is very rigged because I always just go for all my favorites. Want to show you. So
Monkey.
This is Tethered Monkey. And you know, just when I mentioned the equality clause to you, it brought this to mind, where the artist is Albert Adams. And he says, so what this represents for him, he says, this ape is a recurring motif in the artist's paintings. It speaks to how man carries his primal nature with him, as well as the inhumanity of apartheid South Africa is experienced personally by him as a gay and colored man. So as a gay and colored man, he says, you know, I feel very strongly that, yeah, there's a part of me that's natural, but that I carry with me all the time. But there's also just how people can be absolutely horrid to each other. And that is in the Constitutional Court Arts Gallery. So you'll see themes of children's rights, themes of equality, this theme that constantly comes out of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Overcrowding in prisons, right? Let me go to Cecil Scottness and Hamilton Budraza, one of the first pieces of the Constitutional Court. Zoom out. And you see these hands reaching up, and you see faces, you see them. So there's themes of nature, there's themes. So this artwork is from 1994. A very turbulent time in the history of our country where we are looking now at this new dawn. You can see this idea of people looking at the new dawn, and they're looking, you know, at the sort of like this figure to say, you will bring hope, you will fix what went wrong. And the hands, you can see there's different shades of the different colors of the people in our country. So the art collection is well thought out, well put together, very detailed, but it also says, come in, we're not hiding anything, but there's something that everyone can identify with over here. Okay.
Can you show us the speaker? Did you do the speaker of the house?
Oh, let's go to the speaker of the house. The speaker
should be the foyer.
It's this one.
Yes.
This is even before your 94 period where people are trying to sort the country out. This is the period before that, in the late 80s, right in the heart of apartheid, and Norman Catherine was making fun of the parliament, as it were, at that time. So this is a 1989 piece, and Norman Catherine is saying, listen, I appreciate that you think you know what you're doing, but you're messing things up for everybody. And so this is just making fun. The speaker represents obviously the entire parliament, but she's saying, wow, right?
I have no idea.
It's very satirical, very, so she was just, this is her time of saying, in this period of political upheaval, this is what I'm going to mock and make fun of.
Yeah.
Just that whole idea again of social commentary, of people being able to say, this is how we feel about what it is that's happening in our country.
Okay. Nolubabala, could you also show with us next to the Ladder of Freedom?
Yes.
The writings of all the people who were arrested there, and tell us a bit about Chris Hani.
Oh yes, let's go through the barrier.
Yeah.
So ladies and gents, if you look, I actually had promised to show you this. I suppose I'm quite anxious as well. You're quite an intimidating crowd, mostly because I can't even see you. Okay, so these are the writings of, so this is paying homage to all the people, over 100 people stood trial at the treason trial. And what you see are the names of the people. I just want to tell you, so it was like in 1956 that the first, you know, the trial was concluded 2 years after, but in 1956, the treason trial commenced. All of these people were tried. This is black, white, male, female, but it's over 100 people who said, this is our country. We don't appreciate what's happening. We are not impressed. Coincidentally, a lot of the people who are here were actually imprisoned at either, so Helen Joseph's name is here where my cursor is pointing. So that's Helen Joseph. She was at the women's prison. And if we come up here, you'll see that this is Thembisile. I want to see if I can zoom. Yes. Thembisile Chris Hani. Right? So Chris Hani on the 10th of April in 1993. 1993, if I've said to you 1994 was an era of a new dawn, it means 1993, it was hectic, right? And in 1993, we were in a period where there were lots of different talks between obviously the apartheid era government, but also struggle activists with regards to saying, how are we going to negotiate peace? How are we going to have a negotiated settlement where we try to do the best for the most amount of people? And just as these talks were happening, they would keep being derailed by big events. But for me, the biggest is on this one afternoon, just maybe on a personal note, my birthday falls on the 10th of April, and in 1993, look, I'm not going to divulge my age, but I was in my teens, and I'd baked a chocolate cake. 4 of my cousins were over visiting, and we're sitting as a family. The parents are watching TV, and then boom, it's just pandemonium in the country. Ukrisani has been assassinated. He was a member of the South African Communist Party, and when he was assassinated, everything stalled. There were deep fears that we would go into an all-out civil war. And at that time, the country had a choice to make. The country would either move forward or it would just be darker than it had been even before these negotiated settlements. And a decision was taken, I don't know the human spirit, political will, but a decision was taken to forge on. And when Ukrisani died, it was, I could almost say in my head, it was a turning point. It was a shift where people actually said, they'd walked away at that stage from the negotiation table. And people said, let's come back, let's sit down, we iron this out, we resolve it. How will we do it? So for me, people, maybe another aspect of what the Constitution Hill is all about, a lot of these names are famous names, especially in the South African context. We know them, the older generation knows them, our kids will study about them in history books, but there are names of people that we've never heard of. So at Constitution Hill, on a daily basis, some of the ex-prisoners are giving workshops, they're talking, they're sitting with young people, they're doing
Interaction?
I'm trying to think about when it's intergenerational, 2 different generations, the young and the very old, and they sit and they talk. And you then see ladies who were never on the news, who never became members of parliament, and you just get attached to their stories. So the site and the court is a story of the well-known, but also someone that never made it to the headlines, but certainly they were part of over 100 and part of over 100,000 and part of 1 million who said, this is what we want to see in the future going forward.
Lovely. Now, Babalo, there's a question. Somebody wants to know if there is a book detailing the art at the Constitutional
Yes,
Court.
there is. The title of the book is called Art on a Hill. No, Light on a Hill. It's a massive, like coffee table kind of a book. And it actually even gives you, I love looking at it, very sentimental about it. It even shows you the sketches. It shows you the awaiting trial block before it was demolished. It shows you what the artists were thinking, what the thought process was behind the architects. The court is amazing. There's details such as we don't want massive air conditioning that's going to look, cross against our artworks. So there's like a little river thing, I think, that runs at the bottom of it, and there's air ducts. So the book shows you the art, the background behind the scenes, and the architecture and the sketchings and all sorts of other technical things.
Is it
Light on a
available?
Hill.
Like,
It's available, email us, we'll send you our details, we'll make a plan.
all right. Okay, let's do the flag.
Okay, sure. There we go. So you've now obviously seen that. So those are your 11 justices. And right behind them is this massive South African flag. Before we maybe even touch on that, I like the fact that behind the judges, I mean, in every courtroom in the world, I'm tempted to say, you would have the country's coat of arms. It isn't there. All there is a Constitutional Court logo over there, And there's this massive beaded flag, and I like it because for me it represents this idea of separation of powers nicely, where we are equal, but we separate arms of government, and we don't outrank each other. This is how we work. And the fact that the coat of arms is not there for me is quite significant. Significant, sorry. Now this flag, massive. I'll zoom into it in a second, but that is how it looks from where the public would be sitting. Made out of thousands and thousands of tiny beads. And it was actually done square by square.
Lovely.
Right? It was done square by square, and then the final person stitched all the different squares together. And what you are seeing here is, again, this Y shape of the South African flag. I mention it a second time because it's also quite significant, because the Y shape in the South African flag symbolizes different people coming together as one. Each of these squares, so it will have these thousands of tiny beads. And on the bottom in the dark green, let me zoom in over there, the names of the people who worked, again, from your province, Nolwazi.
Oh, we represent.
You are. So the names of the people who hand wove the flag are at the bottom over there. And once, incidentally, one of the corporate law firms had a vacation program, I think. No, it was the young candidate attorneys coming in, and they took them to the Constitutional Court for obvious reasons, and they went on tour, and we did this. And then, I break out my normal speech about this is the massive South African flag, it's beaded. And this young lady sitting in the gallery, she says to me, "Can I quickly show you something?" She takes out her phone and she goes, lo and behold, it's this flag in her mother's lounge. I'm like, what? I had goosebumps. And I'm like, what are you showing me? This is our flag. She's like, my mom is the lady who did the last stitchings. And that's the lady who is now an attorney, probably from the simple things of, Mommy, where's it going? What do they do? What's a court? What are lawyers? And that's where she is today.
Nice. Can you do the to show the courtroom and swing around?
Okay, sure.
There.
So, ladies and gents, from my side, we've shared our home with you.
Thank you so much, Nolo.
It's a huge pleasure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the American Intellectual Property Law Association and Adams & Adams, I thank you all very much for attending. I hope that you enjoyed the tour. Should you visit South Africa, please swing by at our Constitutional Court. And for the fellow South Africans who've been to the court, please consider revisiting. And for those who haven't, please make sure you visit. Thank you very much. We'll be sending you all a link, and you can enjoy the art at your leisure, and you can read more about it. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you, Nolbabalo.
No lo sé.